Hey,
Here you are.
how are you? It's so
Are you
wonderful to
guys
see you,
all in
man.
the
It's been a
same?
while.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah, long time.
Where are you guys all based?
So Kate and I are in Indiana. We're actually in the same house, just different rooms.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm back in Alabama.
Nice.
Yeah.
I am. I'm in a Zoom room, and there's a writing couple that are obviously live in the same house, but they're in different rooms. They're like, we don't
Gotcha.
share a camera. Yeah.
Nice. Well, we're so happy that you're able to join us today and talk about Teen Wolf, this awesome show that we all love.
Yay.
So, Christian, how did Teen Wolf come into your life?
I was very lucky because my managers introduced me to Jeff because they were his managers, or his managers as well. And we actually became good friends. And this was before, I think it was even before Teen Wolf. It was before Teen Wolf. Then he went off and did Teen Wolf, and I went off and did something else. And then after the first season, he's like, hey, would you want to come and help? And I was like, sure, that sounds fun. And, they were in Atlanta. And that's how it happened.
Awesome. Was this around the time of Clone Wars?
God, I've got to map out yes, it was, because I had done 2 seasons, I think, already on Clone Wars, and I had become the head writer in the second season on Clone Wars. And Clone Wars was very much a sort of part-time job. It wasn't, you'd go up for a concentrated amount of time, but it wasn't a full-time writing gig. It was just an amazing experience. So yeah, and then I couldn't do it anymore because of Teen Wolf. So yeah.
So you wrote, directed, and produced episodes of Teen Wolf. What was your favorite aspect of working on the show, and what did you find most challenging?
Favorite aspect? Well, obviously I got to work with Jeff, who's become one of my closest friends. So that was an amazing thing. It was also, I think the greatest thing about the show was it was a low budget show, which we were getting to make all this incredible sort of TV for in a very dynamic and kind of cowboy kind of way, like in the old school kind of way, because there were so many things, and you've obviously spoken to people before, but we just didn't have the budget for. So we just had to kind of tiny little sets and dynamic shooting and quick run over there and do this. And, it was different from bigger productions I've been on, which I think actually become less creative because they don't have that dynamism, because they're weighed down by production. They're weighed down by just different aspects. And we had a freedom that we could do which Jeff sort of obviously encouraged. And it wasn't that we weren't a valid production. We were very much a real crew and real stunts and all that sort of stuff. But there was just a way of doing things which was more creative and liberating, I think. So that was amazing. So being able to direct, Jeff very kindly let me direct. So that was an incredible part of it. And just, it was a really fun show to work on. I think one of my most fun experiences in a way. Definitely production. The actors were fun. It was great.
It's fantastic.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Did I answer everything in that 3-part question? What was it? What was the most challenging? Well, the most challenging was definitely the budget. But I think, and also time, like what happened, I think probably the most challenging aspect of the whole thing was when they picked us up for, not 1 season, but 2 seasons, but called it one, but gave us 24 episodes. And, it's different when you're on a network show that's 24 episodes, because it has usually a much bigger budget. It has a bigger writing staff. It has a more complete support system. And we obviously didn't have that because we were low budget, MTV, small writing staff. And then we were doing 24 episodes, and it was just intense. And Jeff is not one to just be like, well, let's just do a simple story this episode. Will knows that very well.
Yeah.
And that's what's so dynamic about working with him is that, it's always like, what's the puzzle? What's the thing? And so we were constantly doing, that's hard to do for 24 episodes. I mean, I'm not going to rag on any equivalent types of shows, but usually you look at those shows and they're a very similar format. Each episode is, this happens in the first act, and it's very structured so they can just farm that out to a whole load of writers. We couldn't. Every episode was sculpted and built, and I think that's to Jeff's credit, and also the reason why the show, I think, resonated so much on one of those levels is that the stories were, even though we didn't have the budget, the stories were really good a lot of the time and fun.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not a show that had any filler episodes.
No.
I mean, yeah, no. I think you're. I mean, to be honest with you, I haven't watched every episode.
Well, when you've been through the trenches, I mean, how often do you want to relive those battles? So
I watched through the 3 episodes that I directed today, and I was like, oh my god, I forgot about all of that stuff and how crazy it was. It was amazing.
Quite wonderful.
You're currently a producer on Resident Alien.
Mm-hmm.
Have you worked at all with Laura Webb, who is the music supervisor on both shows? Or I think Segan and Guy is an editor on Resident Alien and was an assistant editor on Teen Wolf. Have you had a chance to work with either of them?
Yes, funny enough. Laura is a good friend of mine, and I got her the job or I recommended her. I didn't get her; she got herself the job. I recommended her. So she's the music supervisor, and I also had her do my show called Eye Candy that was on for 1 season, and she really helped on that show because it just needed great music. On Resident Alien, the creator Chris Sheridan is he's very specific on the music he wants, so it's sort of a mutual relationship between her and Laura and him on that show. And then Segan actually edited half of my episode that I wrote, bizarrely enough. Never saw her because of the pandemic. And then I was shooting as well, and then the pandemic, and then I think she didn't finish it. Somebody else was brought on. So she's not with us on this 2nd season, I don't believe.
Gotcha.
I absolutely love Resident Alien. It's just so amazing. It's one of my favorite shows right now.
I know it's a surprise for people because they don't realize how really funny it's going to be. I mean, Chris is an amazing writer, and it's just super, super funny. Like being on the set, you just were like, I mean, the genius of that show is you have an incredible actor in Alan Tudyk, and he's just like, I mean, he's a dream for you to have on a show because he is, every different take is different, but it's so professionally done. And it's like, he's like plastic in not only his facial and bodies, but also his acting is so plastic. Like it's just, so fun to be around, and you don't know what you're gonna get. And then, that he's surrounded by these amazing actors. So it was a really fun show to work on. And I had never done, I mean, I don't believe it's a comedy, it's a dramedy because there's a lot of drama in it as well. And I think that's why it worked. But I think it's been super fun to work on. And I didn't realize how funny I could be actually, which was a kind of revelation for me. Not in the sense that just being in the room and figuring out stuff and like, oh, we should have him have to do a circumcision on a baby, and like how crazy is that? An alien wanting to do, and just coming up with one of the proudest things I pitched was him suckling on the udder of a cow. We just get to sort of do the most extreme things because it's through this perspective of this alien. So that's been really, really fun.
Yeah, I loved when they went to like the alien convention. It was just so brilliant.
Been to a few of those. And, we put it in. Yeah, it had to happen. Yeah. And that was like, oh my god, the costumes and the production design on that show, they just went full out, and it was amazing what they did, because it's like we had to do a whole convention with, and we had hundreds of extras all dressed. I was like, we couldn't do that on Teen Wolf.
Unfortunately. So what was it like in the writer's room bringing a new and very interesting creature and mythology into the world of Teen Wolf for season 2 with the Kanima?
Don't you know that? Weren't you on season 2?
No.
You were season 3.
Yeah, I was season 3. I did get to sit in with y'all for a couple of days, and that was awesome.
I was like, Will, can't you just
take this one?
Take this one, Will. I can't remember exactly. It's just fun. We would just be like, Jeff would usually have an idea of what he wanted, and we would sort of then just extrapolate on that, and it was fun to put it what was really fun, it was like a full costume, which we hadn't had ever. And then also the actor who was a stunt guy, David, I believe. Yes, David, really great guy. And what he physically had to put him through was like, oh my God, like that costume would be sweating and everything. But like coming up with it was more, I think we just, Jeff's always like, well, what's the cool thing? What's going to make this cool? And just the fun things like the paralyzing slime and, the stuff and how that would work and the conceit of that. And yeah, it was always fun because we would always start a season with, Will, this is like, what is the threat of what's the big bad of the season? And that was always really fun to come up with. And like Jeff, we went to Mykonos together because we were like, we haven't had a holiday, and we were like, he was like, I think I got this idea of the Dirac, and we just sort of like were riffing on that for like 2 weeks while we were by the pool, which was really nice.
I think
sounds awesome.
Yeah,
we were very lucky. Poor Jeff got food poisoning, and I was like out partying at one point, and he was like. But it was a really fun trip and creative. Like it was a write-off because we were working.
Well, I think you took a picture of him like sitting on this wall, and you can see like beautiful water behind him, and he's just hunched over his phone, and it's like he's writing notes for the next season. And
I thought you meant hunched over because of the food poisoning. I was like, don't laugh at that, Will.
It's like this. Christian took like this beautiful picture of Jeff in the scenery, and he's just on his phone, like taking notes.
I think he was still in post, I believe.
Probably.
I think he was still getting visual effects while we were doing that. But
probably.
And trying to take notes as well.
Yeah.
He doesn't. His brain doesn't shut up.
It does not.
For his credit, and also. It's hard for him too.
Gotta admire that dedication.
Yeah.
Abomination is such an incredible episode. It's one of my favorites from season 2. And I love how Derek threatens Styles and then immediately pushes him out of the way to save him from the Kanima.
Right.
It's the second time that we've had an episode where Styles spends the entire time trying to save Derek while Scott's having dinner with the Argents. Was that intentional to do a callback to season 1 Magic Bullet?
God, I don't know. I can't. Maybe. I don't have an answer for that. I'm sorry. Jeff probably unconscious, if not consciously, probably unconsciously did it. But Jeff's pretty conscious about creative decisions, so I wouldn't say maybe. I can't remember.
Fair enough.
But it was, I forgot, what was it called? The shipping of Styles and Derek. What's it called?
Derek.
Derek. Right. I forgot. Watching the episode again, I was like, oh yeah, God, we put them in this situation together, which is, it's quite an intimate situation, so it's kind of great. But also we would sort of often start the season with like, what are the cool things you want to do? And what can we do? Like the ice rink. I remember we started, I was like, what about an ice rink and the pool? And like, how can we, and then get these locations and then build a sequence around that as well. So yeah. So sorry, I didn't really answer.
Still very cool.
Yeah,
we love all
awesome.
like the water imagery that happens in season 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's really amazing.
Abomination is also a fan favorite episode. Did you anticipate that fans would react so positively to it?
I didn't really know that, actually. I mean, I knew that about Motel California because people told me. I didn't know it about Abomination. But I think it's kind of really, it's interesting because it's a lot of things are kind of coalescing in that part of the season, I guess. And this is the second season. It was 12. Was it 12 episodes?
Yeah, it's 12.
12 episodes. And so I had just come on, and we're working on doing the whole season. So I didn't really know about that, to be honest with you. And I knew. I think I just was like, we got to get it done, and because I wrote it, I didn't direct it. I didn't know quite track as much as it. Also, it's very interesting to watch the progression. Like, I was jumping from season to season a little bit, and I was like, God, we really did get better and better and better at this. For me, that episode is not my favorite of my episodes, but I was like, oh God, the acting gets better, everything gets better. And the directing of the actors, because in Abomination, I was like, oh, everyone's shouting a lot. A lot of acting happening here as I'm watching this. I'm like, I wouldn't quite. But yeah, and we were also, I think it was shooting, and we were still in the writer's room, so I wasn't on a set as much as I was with other episodes. So yeah.
It's interesting when stuff like that happens, where it's like someone or fans latch on to an episode that you're just like, that was just an episode. Like, we were just working, and then like they find this thing in it, and they kind of make it their own, and they turn it into this special episode because of all the energy they're picking up from it. But then when you're looking back on it, you're like, I was still writing another episode. That one was shooting. Like, there's so much going on that's like, I really don't remember. So,
I mean, I forgot. I was like watching I was like, God, I forgot these. Like, I watched the Devoid episode, The Void or whatever you say. And I hadn't seen that in a long. I watched Motel California a few times, but I haven't watched that. And I was like, God, I forgot how good. That's a really good episode. Mm-hmm. Like, I was it's really fun, and and of course you've got, Void Styles, and that's really he's such an amazing actor, and so it's just like I was like watching. I was like, oh my God, this is yeah. And I remember we very early on we were like, we've got to do him be bad because he's such a good actor, and he'll do it really in a very creepy way. So that was a really fun thing to be involved in, and also to direct that one was really amazing.
And that episode just blows me away. It's so good.
Yeah, I think you're going to ask me something about it, so I won't. I would blow my wad.
Abomination has one of the most iconic Coach lines with "the bigger they are, the bigger they are." What was it like writing for Coach Finstock?
I bet that's a Jeff line. It could be a Jeff line, and it also could be him just improving because he did a lot of improving. So I can't tell you actually.
Okay.
It's good. It was fun writing for him, but you usually, we find that a little bit on Resident Alien, is some, not all of it, not consistently, but there are moments that are a lot of improv stuff that happens that just heightens the scene because the actors are so good. So yeah, so maybe I don't know. Who knows?
Nice. Have you noticed a difference between the way stories are broken on Teen Wolf compared to shows like Luke Cage, Resident Evil, or Clone Wars?
God, I could go over each one. Because every show has a different showrunner, and there's showrunners who are experienced, and then there's showrunners who are not so experienced, and there's also, working with George Lucas, which is a very different experience. And they are all valid in their own way. Jeff is in the room, has to break everything. That's sort of the mindset that I'm in as well as a showrunner. It's very much, what's the cool shit? What's the emotional story? What's the what's the want of the episodes, what's the need, what is our lead, so it's really sculpting that out. Working with George Lucas was just a dream come true and amazing, and we would go up there for 10 days and we would break 22 episodes in 10 days, which is incredibly intense. And these are not little, the Clone Wars episodes, some of them are not that great and some of them are really good, and they're but they're little, there's like 22 minutes of an hour of storytelling told, they just jump so you still have to have the same move. So that was always very complicated in a way, and we do like 3 episodes a day. I was like, oh my god. And as you'd have to come back and re-break stuff, and stuff would change, and obviously Dave Filoni was really steering all of that, and he's really amazing with story in terms of that world, and so that was a very different experience, but it was a great experience to be. I was very involved in that in the seasons that I was on. But a lot of it, it's sort of my angst, a bit of it. It's this animation thing. Like, the writer is not really very important in animation, and not well respected, and not paid accordingly. And it's a big effing problem. Yes. And it's not good. And, like, if you think Pixar movies, they're not union. These are not union
they're
writers.
Not WGA.
It's absolutely insane. What? And they're some of the best writers in the business. Yeah. Those storytellings. But, sometimes those are written by committee in terms of they break the story very much like a TV show. That's why I think so many of those stories are so rich, because they're really, like, they've worked it. But yeah, and who else? Luke Cage. Luke Cage was an odd experience. I wouldn't say, I think the showrunner did not have experience. He'd never run a show before. And he had a weird way of running the room. It was like, it would be like, where are we? Where are you? What's happening? And then, Marvel's back then, this was before its new regime change, was not the most pleasant place to work, I found, because it was very, well, this was before the film side took over. That was run by something else, which was very strange. And it just was, there was a lot of details about how things had to happen. And you just would be like, creatively, it was just like exhausting, instead of being inspiring for both the directors and the writers, I found. So, yeah, different experience. 6 Feet Under was an amazing experience, because it was all just us coming in from the weekend and saying what crazy things we'd been up to, and using that life experience. And then Lost was a very, very cool experience, was also a very troubled early experience, and that was tough to work in that environment, but very, very cool stories. And I'm proud of what I pitched on that show and what became the show, because I was there from the beginning. So yeah, lots of all very different things. Good and bad for different reasons.
Yes. It was a struggle for me when we were working together, because Lost is tied for my all-time favorite show.
Yeah.
To not pester you like all the time about Lost. So I just want to say that now, that years later after the fact, but
well, you
I love that show so much. And then when you came on, and I was just like, oh, let's see. And then it was like, oh my God, who is here with us? We are in rarefied air. So
it's funny. I worked on that show for a year, and I was very involved in production, because I went out quite a few times for production, which was really amazing. And then, and was very involved. I was one of 4 writers brought on before the show was even, they knew what the show was. And different things have been written about this, and different things have been said. I've never really spoken about it, but we were all very instrumental in what the show became.
Thank you for your service on that show, because I love it so much. So,
and I'd like to pop in and say I'm a huge fan of 6 Feet Under.
Oh yeah, it's a great show. It's funny though, there's a lot of shows that I've worked on that I haven't watched the ends of because I left and I went on to do other things, and I just haven't had the time, and I have never watched the end of 6 Feet. Everyone's like, you gotta watch the last episode.
Wow.
And I was like, I've got to sit down and watch it all, but it's tricky. I don't know how we're not have time to do that, and also it's also like you're going back to a relationship that you broke up with. You're like, oh god, do I really want to sit? And it brings back. It's different with Teen Wolf because it was such a positive experience, and 6 Feet Under was too. But just to go back, you're like, oh, I got to keep moving forward creatively. So, maybe one day I'll watch it when I'm retired.
I hope so.
So you said you didn't get to be on set much for Abomination, but do you know what Tyler Hoechlin and Dylan O'Brien's reactions were to finding out they had to be stuck in a pool filming for hours on end?
They were both game. Like they're both good actors, and Dylan's like fearless. Like he'll do whatever you want to do, and I think also that the show was still second season, so they're all still excited. I can't say if that happened in the 6th season or the 5th season. I think they get more tired of like, oh god, this is what I have to do. But I think it's fun. How hard is it? You're like getting to play act and jump in a pool and be action stuff. But they loved all that stuff, and it was fun being around it as well, shooting it. And like I was like, I still look at some of the stunts that we did, and I was like, how the hell did we do those stunts? And those stunts take like half a day on Resident Alien. I was like, how is this possible? Like we did this, and the show looks so good on so many levels. But yeah, I think that speaks to the dynamism of the production.
That's definitely been a recurring motif in all of our interviews, is that we had no money, but the show looks so good, especially
and not a lot of time either.
No money, no time, but it's like you show someone an episode and be like, "What do you think the budget was for this?" And they would say, and you'd be like, "How about a fourth of that, or something?" Where it's just like, because you're right, our stunts. I mean, we had like world-class stunt performers, who work like Caitlin Deschelle, who was Wonder Woman, who and stuff like that.
I love.
And she's fantastic. And it's just like, but we did it on such a small budget, but you would never know it looking at it.
Absolutely true. It really speaks to sort of what Jeff created and what Joe Janier, the producer, really pulled off too. I mean, and his wife, real miracles, because we, and also speaks to, I went off and did my show, Eye Candy, right after this. And I took both Russell and Dave the DP, and Dave Daniel, the DP, and Russell, obviously, very well, the director. And I took them, Russell directed the first 2 episodes of Eye Candy, and Dave shot. And it was great because I had this relationship with him. I also brought one of the camera operators because I knew how good he was, and Todd, and he would like when what happened was, before I got to direct an episode, we would be running at such a level of, Russell would have to keep going and everybody would have to keep going, that I got to direct a lot of second unit, and it was more than just picking up stuff. It was actually doing whole scenes, because we sometimes were just so overwhelmed with what we had to get done. And so I got to work with, different DPs on the show. I got to work with Russell about what I would be doing, and I would be on set with him. And, we would have a really, it speaks to Russell and Jeff's and the DP, Dave, and how to sort of get that look for the money, and then I learned the tricks about how to do that, like slow motion and but in a cool way, not in a goofy way, and how we would light things. And so it was a really, I don't even know if you could do that anymore, actually. And I sort of was shocked when I walked on the set of Resident Alien at times, because I was like, oh God, if only we could do this. And, because we could get all this done. But I think with the way I don't know. It's very interesting. So, good question.
Russell said something when we talked to him it was like Teen Wolf wanted to get made. That was how he put it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there is a little bit of that, like, no one's totally sure what alchemy allowed all that to happen, but it did for Teen Wolf.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think it was a little magical island of production, and Joe Janier brought the production to LA, and that made it like a lot easier, and then also more difficult in ways, because we didn't have the forests, and we didn't have certain aspects which were like you have. But it was like, yeah, I think I wasn't on for the first season, so I can't speak to the actual creative of it all happening and being, they had to go through a lot. They had to go through a lot with MTV. They had to go a lot with, getting the production working on that kind of budget. And Joe Janier comes out of the Corman sort of stuff, so that how to make things that way, and it's on that budget and pull it off. And so there were all sort of small wonders that happened all the time. And I think, when you get a cast like that, that feeds the show and people relate to those characters and the fan response and everything. So I was lucky I got to walk on second season and it was all already up and running. But it hadn't become the phenomenon that it then became, because I think just more time created more awareness, obviously. And
right.
People really had more fun. It got better and better. It just did.
It did.
Yeah.
It did.
If you could be any Teen Wolf creature, what would you be?
Oh, God. Probably the Durak.
That's a fun one.
That's cool.
I love that actress. She's a really good actress. And I don't know. I'd like to be a witch. I don't know. I mean, the Catamount, not so much.
Yeah.
She gets to have sex with Derek. I guess. I don't know. I mean, what she's it's a fun cat, and she is in one of my favorite episodes that I did. So I think that's but yeah, I guess. I also, the whole Negotsuno stuff was really fun, because they built this incredible set that was like, the set, obviously, but it looked so good with the snow and everything. That was really beautiful stuff. Yeah. I was sad I didn't get to really do anything on that. In that I did devoid obviously, but like on that set, it was so beautiful. I loved to shot on that. I didn't get to do anything, It
was an amazing set.
Yeah.
I was telling Will that like the saddest thing is that we didn't meet him till season 4, so we never had the chance to be there to see that set.
Yeah, because it looks gorgeous.
It's really gorgeous.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Do you have any memories from filming Shapeshifted as Principal Thomas that you'd like to share?
Oh God, that's season 2, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I was like, why didn't he ever come back? I think I was so nervous. It was so fun. I mean, I've acted before, but I just was like, Jeff kept saying, make it bigger, make it bigger. And I couldn't, I don't know, resolve that. I just became very nervous performing. Yeah, it was fun. It wasn't as fun as I would have liked it to be, because you're also like thinking like, oh, production and scripts and,
right.
So it was, but it was fun. I think it was more fun for Jeff than it was for me. Even though I do get my like $4.95 residual check every so often.
Nice.
Nice.
Go get a latte.
Yeah, pays for a Starbucks. So it's good. What speaking of Principal Thomas, what do you think happened to him after he was relieved of his job as principal?
I get shocked or something, electrocuted or something.
Yeah, they shock you in the car.
I should have watched it again. I can't. Who knows? He probably went off to, I don't know, into therapy or into an insane asylum.
It's probably wise of him to do. Oh, maybe he ended up in Icon House.
Yeah, maybe he's an Icon. Who knows?
Yeah, he probably is. He's definitely an Icon House. I actually thought he died, but no, I think I should have made a return. I should have made a return after I left the show. you know.
Yeah. That would have been fun.
Fun.
That would have been a lot
Remember
of
me?
fun.
People will be like, no.
We took a poll on Instagram, and by far Motel California is everyone's favorite episode. And I was just wondering if you wanted to talk a little bit about the experience you had filming that.
I mean, it was really fantastic. I mean, Jeff let me direct, which was, I'd been wanting to do, you know, I directed a short film out of college that got nominated for Oscar, but then I couldn't get any directing work, and sort of my writing career kicked off, and he was like, I'm going to let you direct. And it was so kind of him. And I don't know any other showrunners who would have done that or who do that, actually, because he really does support talent within, you know. And, you know, he made us script supervisors. She became a director. And I mean, some of the other writers directed and everything. And it was an episode I wrote. And then obviously he did his polish on it and made it better, way better. But it was fantastic. The most difficult part of that was finding the motel. I think we went and saw like 25 motels, because you keep thinking,
oh, wow,
I need this like iconic hotel, and there aren't many of them left. And they're also, I kept saying, I don't know where I got it, but I was like, I need a face. The motel has to have a face, you know. And that motel, when you got to the right angle, you know, it feels like it's in the middle of nowhere, but it really isn't. It's like surrounded by LA buildings. And so that was the hardest thing, I think. And once we found that place, then I could do everything I wanted to. And then we basically had one set, which was one, because we're low budget, we had one motel room. And then we had the production designer very cleverly, we could configure. So like during lunch, they would move a window or move the door to the other side, and move the dress, change the pictures, and move the bed. And so that's all one room that you see.
Wow.
That hotel room. Move the flats in slightly. So like, you know, the one that's being renovated is the same as all the same room, just different configurations. And we would happen like, you know, then you go onto another set and come back and to be a whole new motel room, and we'd shoot. And but you know, everybody supported me. You know, my AD JD was incredible, and Dave was incredible, and I'd also knew the gaffer because he had shot while I'd been my DP, and so everyone just was so supportive. And I'm very, you know, it was an amazing experience, and the actors were very supportive, and it's a really strong script. And I remember thinking to Jeff, I was like, I think I want to direct this one, because if I'm writing it, but also because it's almost a standalone. Like I could show it as a calling card in a way for my direction, because you don't really need to know. You need to know, it'd be better if you did, but if you didn't know the show, at least it's got you can follow the story.
Yeah.
It's, you know, obviously there are things that you're like, the Dirac, who's that big in the burning gasoline. But yeah, so it was, I think it was just the stars aligned. And it was I was very supported. Couldn't have done it without everybody. And I'm super proud of that episode. I love it. And it's very nice that the fans think it, you know, whoever voted, that's very, very kind of them. And I think I cheated a little bit, because I think because it's a standalone, people can it's unique in its thing in a way. And
Sticks out to people.
It sticks out to people. And I think that's one of the reasons, you know, I was very lucky. I'm not stupid. I kind of picked episodes on Clone Wars that were very similar, and they became fan favorites as well. So I was very lucky with that. But I think I think they were very good episodes, and I'm proud of what I did. But I think also I kind of picked stories that, like, I was like, it has a particular voice to it. So, yeah.
Very
That's
beautifully
awesome.
shot episode.
Yeah. It's so
Yeah.
good.
Love it.
I know. I watched it again. I watched it yesterday. I was like, God, it's really good.
It is.
But not to tout my own horn, but like at all. But it's like also devoid. I was like, this is so good. I was like, I forgot how good we were, how dynamic we were, and that's something I would want to keep in another production. I don't know. It's an interesting thing.
Absolutely.
This is a related question, but Motel California is the only episode that you both directed and wrote.
Yeah.
So what was it like having that degree of creative influence over it, as opposed to, just writing or just directing or just producing an episode?
The truth is on Teen Wolf, it's not all yours that's written. Jeff does a very significant polish, but depending on the script. I can't remember how much of a polish he did, but it was nice. It's nice to have that voice if you're doing directing, because you're like, oh, that's fresher. Okay, now I can direct it in this way and stuff. But Jeff and I and the writers' room, but Will can probably speak this more. I don't know. But I think Jeff and I had a unique relationship that we trusted each other creatively. And so we would pitch dynamically in the room. Like a lot of the pitching was us sort of back and forth and then building on that. And so it was nice to have that input. I wasn't alone. Let's just put it like that. Like he and also the writers as well. We had great writers. So it wasn't only my voice, but I think a lot of the ideas, came out of that dynamism of how we created the show, the stories. So it was great.
Y'all did, you and Jeff did have a great dynamic on the show, because there are plenty of times, because Jeff's a showrunner and we're all in the writer's room working, and then, he's got to go off to edit, or he has to go off to do something, and then you would take over, and it didn't feel like a change. It still felt like we had the same creative force working with us, and I think that's in large part due to y'all's working relationship being as solid as it was, and it definitely helped with the writer's room, because you want to keep that momentum, and y'all definitely had that. It was wonderful.
I'm glad that you felt that way. It's sometimes hard because sometimes the writer doesn't trust you. Jeff put great trust in me, which was really, and then you just feel safe. There's plenty of times in my career I've not felt safe, and then creatively you feel like, oh God, I'm censoring myself, and what, and it's just the dynamic. It's usually has a lot to do with the, I did say this politically, the self-esteem of that particular writer, who's running that show. I think that's, it's very hard what we do, but it also should be very easy, and it shouldn't be painful and difficult and scared and full of all these things. And, obviously I think we had a lot of that too, because we were under such pressure, but I think it was always in a way of just doing, let's do great work,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I trust you. I trust your opinion. I trust your voice, and that's really a fun thing to work in.
That's wonderful. Just wonderful.
The idea of werewolves being able to sense people's emotions had been mentioned earlier, but season 3, episode 18, Riddled, which you wrote, is the first time we learn about chemo signals, which I think is a really interesting addition to the werewolf mythology. Do you remember how that concept came about in the writer's room?
I'm like, oh fuck! What I should have watched that episode. I didn't watch that episode. No, sorry, can't. Pass.
No worries. We've definitely asked questions.
Are the fans gonna hate me?
No,
No.
Not even.
We've definitely talked to people where they're like, season 1 was 10 years ago. So
don't say that. Oh my god, that's terrifying. Give me.
Yeah. We've asked Will things about what happened during episodes he wrote, and he's like,
he's still like, I already don't know, you guys. So
Good. All right, good. So I'll pass on that one. Sorry.
Okay, this also relates to Riddled, so you might not have an answer for this, but it is more of an opinion thing. So also in Riddled, Aiden suggests that Styles might be the Nogitsune, and Derek thinks that the Nogitsune would choose someone more powerful than Styles. Mm-hmm. Why do you think the Nogitsune chose Styles?
Well, I know why we chose Styles. Because he's one of the best actors. I think he's one of the best young actors working today. So we knew that he could pull it off. And probably then Gitson did the same thing. No, he's interesting because he as a character, he's the funny man, but he's also sort of this side of, let's say, I think he's vulnerable. He's open, so maybe the Nagitsune picked him because he was easy to access. I don't know. He's an open person and fun, and I think tricksters and demons can make their way. They like to corrupt.
I love it. I love that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Good.
Yeah, Dylan O'Brien has incredible range. It's really impressive that he didn't do anything outside of like YouTube stuff before Teen Wolf.
Yeah.
Blows my mind.
I don't think he's even trained. I think he trained himself. Like he grew up in a Hollywood family, but I don't think he was classically trained.
Yeah.
And his range and his facility is pretty amazing.
Absolutely, it is.
Devoid is actually one of my favorite episodes of the show, and the scene with Lydia and the balloons is just so gorgeous. I was wondering if you had any memories from filming that episode, and if you had any particular, did you take a different approach when directing the scenes with Styles, Derek, and Isaac when they're acting so out of character because of the possession?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Firstly, I do remember pitching that, like this balloon would come down and then you'd transition into the what do you call it? The prom? Is it not prom? It was
I think it's homecoming or something.
Yeah, homecoming.
It was a dance.
The winter formal.
Oh yeah, it was so dance.
This thing of the balloon was like a hard thing to figure out, and we didn't I was like, I wanted just one balloon to come down, and then it's interesting because I watched it again. I was like, the transition from that balloon, and then the balloon, the transition, and then all the balloons are coming in front of her, and then you cut to the set, and the speed of the balloons is different. It drives me nuts. So I should have stupidly, it's a stupid thing, maybe people don't notice it. I wonder if you did. But I
absolutely did not. I was just distracted by how beautiful it looked. I love the transition.
It's these details as a director that you're like, okay, the balloons are coming at this speed, and then we cut to the set with the other balloons, and then I should have done those balloons slow motion and ramped those. It's a technical thing, but and I looked at it again and I was like, even it still bothers me. As a director, the stuff still, but I was watching other stuff and I was like, oh my God. And then in terms of directing them, I think they're all on their A game at that point, that they were all knew how to do their roles so well. So I think that they had fun being those characters. And it's funny because I watched Devoid first and then Motel California, and I'm like, they're kind of very similar episodes because everybody's possessed in the episode, or not everybody, but all the werewolves are possessed in some strange way. So they're very similar. Obviously, we got to go in a dream world, which is super fun. But yeah, they're similar acting wise, and I'm particular with that. I would like to think I'm an actor's director in the sense that I like to deal with the actors. A lot of directors don't, especially in television. They don't, because usually the actors are like, I know how to do this, because it's my TV show, you're coming to visit. These actors, they're more open to sort of, and also because I knew them and everything, and it was like, you're just guiding them, hopefully to give the most truthful performance. And I think, some of the earlier episodes, obviously, they're not the actors, and they don't know quite the roles yet or how to access that emotion so easy or whatever. But they're all great people. Tyler Posey as the lead he's such a sweet, good guy. So you have that as your number one is really key. and he's also very talented. So he just got better and better, significantly better and better. Like he was improving. And then, obviously Holland was great for Motel California, because she's just great at playing that sort of like what's happening and stuff. And so they're all great. Obviously Melissa and JR are just lovely people and really really good actors. So that just having adults like that who are just good to support the production is so essential. Like, it's a huge lesson in how to cast your show, because yes, you want the best actors, but you really want people who are just going to be good people and support the production, because I've been on things where they're not good people, and it's just very destructive to a production. And you're going to be doing this for 5 or 6 years, hopefully, and so you better be enjoying it, and you better be kind and good to everybody, because what else is the point?
Yeah. We've definitely heard from other people about how Tyler Posey was great at being a leader for the cast.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone just seems to love him so much.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, because I don't want to badmouth anybody, but that not on our show, but like on other shows, like if you have a bad person at the head of the show, it's not going to be a good show. The show's probably not going to last. Mm-hmm. If it does last, that person can get recast, because it can be so toxic on the show. I mean, it happened, on something, and it was quite rightly so, because I was on a production somewhere shooting, and I was hearing about this other production where the lead actor was just horrible to everybody, and they ended up firing them because. And they, in a significant show with a significant character, and I'm not going to tell you what it is, but you might get. But it was like it was because that, I mean, stories to where actors were like on set shooting their scene, and I would meet them at the hotel I was staying at, because it was a bar, and you'd meet these lovely actors, and they'd say we would be shooting a scene, and then we'd come back, and the actor had left, and there was a tennis ball on a stand, and we were supposed to act with that, because this person didn't want to act the scenes, and I was like, that's insane. Like, and I kept thinking, why are they tolerating this? Like, and they tolerated it for a while, and then finally it's like, no, you're out of here, and they were, and I would never work with that person.
Don't be an asshole. It's pretty easy.
It really comes through that everyone on Teen Wolf seemed to have a really good relationship with each other behind the scenes, like the cast and crew. Everyone just seemed to really love the project, and get along with each other.
Well, that also comes from the leadership from Jeff and from Joe, and and a little bit part to do with me and Russell. It's like when those people are. When those people are in sort of balancing it out, it just does come down from the top. So it's an actor or it's production. It's like, people just want to feel safe, and they want to feel seen and recognized for their work, and they want to be able to do their best work. It's not ever people are usually not doing their best work because they're feeling in fear, I think.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
I think it really shows how much people care about the show who worked on it, because there's so many people who are still willing to talk to us, after the show's been off air for 4 years. And I mean, someone like you who's on a very successful show right now and everything's still taking the time to talk to us. We really appreciate it.
But I've never done anything like this. It's crazy. I'm not really one to sort of tout. There are some writers who are like on everything and writing articles and everything, and I'm just like, I guess I'm hopefully too busy, but also it's like it's nice to talk about it, to remember, and also hopefully help people who are coming up, because I feel we're a bit in a place where we're in a place with this industry that is concerning to me because I got to really, as it were, pay my dues. Like I had to really work my way up and consequently got a lot of experience and had to, even before Jeff let me direct, I had directed so much stuff on Teen Wolf that I just knew how to do it. So I was in the best place to win. And I think there's a lot of writers and a lot of people who have been made showrunners who have not even been on a set, let alone know how to talk to a crew, let alone manage a writer's room. It's sort of shocking, and it's happening a lot. And also the problem is that because of streaming, you get these writers coming in for short contracts, and then they're spilling out again and going on to another show, and they're not getting to be on the set with their episodes, which is terrible for the business. And it's really, I'm seeing it happen now. Like, I'm just like, you see TV shows and you're like, oh, I know what's going on here. I know who that person is. I know that they didn't have any experience. And I know either somebody else is controlling their experience, or their episode, or a writer's writing a big episode of a big show, and you watch it, you're like, it's like big franchise thing I just watched, and I was like, the third episode sucked, and the first two episodes were great, and I was like, interesting. I was like, that's really interesting that sort of happened, and it's tricky because it's all about money. It's all about streaming, wanting to make stuff. And then also certain people are being in high demand right now, so that they're not getting the training because they're bouncing from writers. I know Writer's Room, a writer who's been consistently on shows and never gone on a set. And I'm like, that shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
And their writing credit, they're now in co-EP. They're like getting right up there on the on the level of writers, and they just haven't had experience. And I'm like, and they're gonna get to run a show. They're gonna write something and run a show, and they're gonna not be able to they're not gonna be able to win. That's the problem, because they haven't been trained. And it's significant, and it's affecting the industry quite significantly right now, because they're not even doing it in a smart way. It's interesting. All interesting.
Yes.
Definitely is. Yeah. Can hear like a lot of different stuff about like we're in peak TV, and it's really amazing in some ways, but then areas suffer, like you're talking about there too.
And it's on shows that like, this is one show I watched, and I was like, the money that they spent on this, not one, I would say there were some huge shows for certain streaming things, and I'm like, what the hell is this garbage? Like, it doesn't even, and they must have 8 to 10 million an episode. Wow. And it breaks my heart, because I'm like, there's so many beautiful artisans who have built these incredible sets and this mythological world and everything, and then you just watch the episode and you're like, that doesn't make a lick of sense, and it doesn't even emotionally track. It's not even Gossip Girl on show. It's like if it's just some Gossip Girl, at least it's funny, but it's like, it just doesn't. And I'm like, that's a problem. Like, and I know why that's happening, and no one's talking about it. And it's not sounding doom and gloomy, because we are in the golden age of TV, but I think some decisions are being made that are rushed and not really. They're not. I mean, I'm trying to think of. There's an interesting thing about potentially taking the writers out of running the shows as well. That's a dynamic that's going on in the business, and that's very worrying, because you have it being run by directors. And as a director, if I was just a director, I'd be like, that's a problem, because TV is about the writing, And so you really, and you have writer directors, obviously, like myself. And if I was to, when I do a new show, I would ask that I direct on it. because I just love doing that. But there are directors who don't know how to write a show, and that's some other big, not all these things I don't want to say, but big franchise shows that are like not, I found out, don't even have showrunners, and because it's the way that it's being controlled, and that's those shows sorely, when you watch them, you're like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw an article about that recently for that big name you don't want to drop.
Yeah, I don't want to drop that name, but people will know if they do. It's just, it's significant, and and these episodes are not cheap. It's not, it's like, I'm like, they're being rushed, and it's hopefully the business will sort of recognize what that is, and that money and investing in talent and really bringing in talent at a young age and training them, and then also supporting that thing because it's worked so well for so long. I mean, the directors and they're not showrunners. They don't. I think it's interesting because I think in the film world they are showrunners on a film because it's 200-day shoot or 186-day shoot or whatever it is. Showrunning is so much harder than directing because you're doing everything. You have to go from the writing to dealing with the studio to dealing with the notes to dealing with schedule to dealing with prep, and director just gets to do prep onward. And that's the fun part. To be honest with you, it's really fun and easy, and easier than people will admit, because they don't want you to know. It's usually a lot of talentless white men who don't want you to know how easy it is for them. And fun it is. It's also, it is very hard on other levels, but it's like, it's not anything of what the world is in the reality of doing a real job.
Right.
But controlling the story from the beginning and having to see that all the way through is so many facets of your brain and so many pieces, and it's the same thing, but like it's so much emotional stuff that you have to be kind of like and so when people are like, oh, well, could you direct a film? I was like, it can't be fucking easy because it's so when you're through the trenches of doing a show, and Jeff would speak to this much more because he's done it a lot longer than me, but it's difficult. It's really difficult, and it's one of the greatest trainings in the world. And I don't know. I've spoken enough. So, did I answer your question?
I believe
it was all
so.
very fascinating to hear. I was really into it. Like,
yes.
Yes.
Were there other characters you would have been particularly interested in exploring the Void versions of, like we see with Styles, Derek, and Isaac in Devoid?
Maybe Holland. I mean, maybe Lydia would be an interesting, because she's a really good actress. So it would have been interesting for her to. Melissa, Stars' mother, I love as an actress. I mean, she's just really real. So it'd be fun to see her be completely, it's fun to play bad.
Yeah.
And so for an actor, that's really fun, and they don't often get to do that, And in this business, we get typecast, whether a writer or a director or an actor, because people have no imagination. We have to feed them their imagination. But I think those would be fun. God, who else? I don't know. Yeah.
Melissa's a good one. That would be rough to watch, but also exciting.
Yes.
Since you've been on both sides of writing and directing for television, how would you describe, or what can you say about the relationship between both the writer and the director? Like when you're prepping your episode with a writer and versus being the writer prepping with a director.
Well, obviously it's easier when because you're just sort of like, and you're usually, you're prepping with Jeff. So you're getting his voice is the most important, or that the showrunner's voice. I have been accused of being very much on directors because when we're shooting stuff, and I don't know why, I just have this sort of a gall about myself in the sense of like, I think because I'm a director and I'm like, you're missing this. Why are you missing this? And
Right.
you need to get this. And that sounds arrogant. And I think you do it in a way, you have to try and do it in a way that's like nurturing, or just sort of say, hey, what about this? And it's difficult in production because it's so high paced that you have to give the note, and or else we're moving on. And then the director's like, I want to move on. Then you're like, no, but you didn't get that. And he's like, why didn't she's like, why didn't you tell me that before? And, that's a difficult dynamic sometimes. But, with Russell and I would often be on the set because Jeff had to be writing or be in the writer's room, and we would switch out and everything. And Russell and I would just laugh a lot of the time. And so it was just very easy. And he would be like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Oh yeah, I'll go do that. And, he would go do that and not take it personally. So I think as a director in TV, you have to really check your ego at the door. And when I was directing my last episode, I was also dealing with a lot of stuff emotionally, but a writer came up and gave me a note, and I was like, why are you giving me that? And I was like, probably should apologize to him at some point. But I just was like, it's hard because you're being told what to do. And I think that's, for directors, is very hard. Like,
mm-hmm.
Directors are very, they're being they're very, what do I say? They're very, it's me or the highway, or, it's just being drilled in sometimes. And Russell isn't like that at all, so it was fun in that level. And, other shows I've been in, two directors that I had to do it with on Resident Alien were wonderful and very open and very kind. And, I think I irked them a bit sometimes, but that's the nature of it. Like, I would rather be irked and not miss an emotional beat and not capture something. Like on Resident Alien, we had a scene and I was like, you didn't get the coverage on that key actor. We have to have that shot. So I had to we had to go back in and shoot that scene because they moved on before I had signed off on it. And I'm really glad that I did that, but it didn't make anybody feel good. And they're like, we're losing time and money. And, it's like, no, but if we don't get it now, you're never going to get it. And then that scene is just going to be weaker for it. And so it's a difficult position as a producer or a writer producer to have to flex that and I think it's just sort of getting the trust of the director, and also being humble yourself. It's hard to get notes from everybody for a director. That's very hard, and it coming from all different places. And I think it's just have to be. It's not. We're having fun. We should have fun doing this.
Right. It's a hard job, but it doesn't have to be hard.
No.
Type of thing. Yeah, like you said
earlier.
And
I think that's shifting in the business. Like, the bullies are being weeded out, and the bigots are gone, hopefully. I mean, I'm sure there's some hiding their bigotry, but they're getting pushed out as well. So I think people are more just about doing good work and being kind and having fun. Life's too short.
Yeah. Yes.
I remember talking to I think he was a cinematographer, and he was saying sometimes, because he was pretty new in the business, but he was saying sometimes when morale would be down on set, sometimes he would just be like, this is a dream job, you guys. Don't forget it's a dream job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard though, because some I mean, when I think about the cold that was in Atlanta and then the cold that was on Resident Alien and the storms that we had to endure, and some of those people are not getting paid very well because they're just assistants, or they're just, it's people really, crews are amazing when you really think about it, but it is totally that aspect is like we're getting to do this fun thing and create these scenes, and then the actors come on, and then it comes alive, and then oh my god, the camera's working, and that's the thing. Oh my god, we got that scene, and it was really funny, and you know, it's like that's what keeps people doing it for not a lot of money sometimes. Yeah. And also, you're working your way up. You're training. You know,
right.
Absolutely.
What was your favorite episode to work on, and is it the same as your favorite episode to watch?
I think my favorite one was Motel California, but also looking at Devoid again. And I'm only saying that they're mine because I was so close to them that they were my favorite. There were other great episodes written by other people and directed by other people. But I think those are the two I'm obviously very proud of. Yeah, I think those two.
They're good episodes.
Definitely. Did you have a particular character or duo that you enjoyed writing or directing more than others? Like Laura Webb said that she really loved picking out songs for Styles and his father for their scenes. What about you?
I'm thinking. I think definitely, obviously, anything with, you know, Tyler and Dylan was fun to do because it was just fun, and they were, you know, they were like a fun, energetic couple together. So it would always be hilarious. I think I did really like stuff with Holland. Because usually it was more emotionally, had a lot of emotion that was kind of like weird. I don't know, they were all fun. Like it was fun doing the twins. They were great guys, Charlie and Max. Yeah, I you know, I got to do, oh God, well, I'm forgetting my brain. Okay, I won't go down that because I can't say what I was going to say because I can't remember. But you know, it was good doing. It was also good being on set with Russell to watch him. I found very fun. You know, he's a visual genius in the sense that little tricks and tricks that I've learned now, like rain and moving stuff in the background. You know, like just things that you just smoke and just looking at a set but in a different way and how to do this. And I think my success is a lot to do with sort of watching him work as well, because he's been working for years and doing really great stuff. So that was always fun, and we would laugh a lot. So that was really fun.
That's
He's
always
a great
good.
guy.
Yeah,
we really enjoyed talking to him.
We did.
Awesome.
Yeah. If Teen Wolf were to come back in some fashion, a sequel show, reboot, spinoff, whatever it may be, what would you like to see it explore?
It's a hard question for me to answer because Jeff has talked about it with me. And so I can't really say because then I'd be giving it away.
Fantastic.
You know, he has it on his mind. There might be an opportunity coming up. Who knows? And he has some good ideas, of course, because he's very smart and creative. Yeah, what would I personally? I'm now kind of contaminated with the idea of what it could be. I don't think it would come back with the same characters. Let's put it like that. Obviously, not obviously, but I don't think that would happen for him. But I can't speak to that. I don't think I would want to do that if I was doing it either. I think it's sort of like they may come back in some effect, but I think it would be driven by another dynamic. Something, you know, we were very leaning into, you know, identity, sexuality, gender back then, before a lot of people were doing it. I mean, significantly, as prevalently as we were. And I think now there's another dynamic going on, which is also really interesting in terms of like, or important to be explored, like, you know, socio-economic status and, you know, how to survive in this world where, you know, you are not making as much as, there's not enough to go around. And we're struggling with that. And also, racism in a much more prevalent way, and not that that we've had a very racist culture but now people are accepting that it's a conversation that should be addressed. So I think that would have to be part of it much more. You know, we had obviously ethnic characters in our show, but I think you know, there's a whole world of, like, you know, it's like, I don't know. To me, there's a whole, working on Resident Alien has been amazing because I've got to be really educated about native culture in this country, and how, you know, the horrific things that have happened that we've all known about, but you just don't know the conversation, and it's not anybody's fault except that they just, you know, you want to ask the right questions and be educated on what, but there's just, this is something that should be discussed, and it should be prevalent in a story, and beautiful sort of awareness of that culture, and that, you know, the different tribes and how they're different, and how the land was distributed, and all this history that's just like kind of very tragic, but also, you know, evolving into a very relevant part of America, and should be brought back as a very important, not only spiritually, because that's also very important balance to what the hell is going on, you know, but also just culturally, like there's a whole culture there that's really good, would be really a good balance for what's going on right now. So I'm mumbling, but I think that would be, you know, those things would be very important to discuss, I think, in a show. So I don't know. Yeah.
It's fantastic.
I think all that sounds fantastic.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the reason why Teen Wolf has had such a lasting impact, is because they were doing so much before other shows. I mean, Schitt's Creek went on to, you know, Dan Levy created a show where there was like no homophobia. But, you know, Teen Wolf was really exploring that before Schitt's Creek came along.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Jeff always said very clearly, he's like, I don't want gay to ever be an issue. Mm-hmm. And in that time, it still was an issue. It still is an issue, you know. You know, it was working in a much more positive world view. But I think, yeah, you're right. Jeff was doing it before. He was very, very, because we don't want to see another Lifetime movie about some horrible thing happening to a gay person. We wanted to just have fun stuff and cool stuff, and not ever be an issue. I mean, it's funny. It's like now it's like just it is in those shows, and it's because of us. And I also would say a lot of the CW shows, we affected those too, because they were sort of running on sort of very, I don't know. I know they were doing it at the same time as well, but just not quite as dynamically. I don't know. I'm mumbling now.
It's all wonderful. It's all great. Are there any upcoming projects of yours that you can tell us about?
I'm doing Resident Alien for the next probably year. We'll be finished. We're doing 2 seasons back to back. Like,
nice.
They did
nice.
They did the same trickery. They basically did 8 episodes and 8 episodes, and we're counting them as 2 separate seasons. So that's great. It's a lot of episodes, but that's going to take me probably till May, June. And then I just wrote a feature about, which I'm praying I'll get to direct, which is a untold true story during World War II about a group of resistance fighters who are gay, and it's all true. And so,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Sounds incredible.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I think the story is incredible, and I'm very proud of the draft. Obviously, it's evolving, and it's just went out to producers this very weekend. So we'll see what happens.
Well, definitely hope that you're able to get it made, get to direct it, because.
Well, I'm very excited for that. I definitely hope that gets made and you get to direct it. So that would just be incredible.
That would be awesome.
Yes.
Yes. I'm praying. So we'll see. It's the beginning of the process. We know how hard films are to get made, but funny enough, they're not as hard, I think, anymore, because I think because of Netflix and that the other streamers are looking for content. So it's not an expensive film. It's not explosion. There's a big explosion, but it's not aerial attacks by 500 bombers and
I got you. Nice. Well, thank you, Christian, so much for joining us. This has just been wonderful.
It was so nice.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, it was really nice, and thank you for having me mumble on. I don't know what I said.
Our pleasure.
It's been so amazing talking to you.
Yes.
Oh, it's so sweet.
And please, if you don't mind, keep us updated on that project. If
for sure,
things move forward.
How many people are listening to this? Do you know?
Oh my God, we have a very small audience at the moment, but we have our Instagram is like full of people who are constantly talking to, and our Patreon and stuff like that. So we're making a little splash.
But probably more people are listening to it than probably, right?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, we have download numbers, but not streaming numbers, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that how they do?
Yeah.
They measure it.
They measure by downloads, but not the stream through Podbean, at least, who is our service and all that. So we know our download numbers, but not the actual stream numbers.
Well, it's great you guys are doing this, and because it's actually a great recording of the talent involved and your thoughts on it, and and getting people to come and do it, I think is such a good idea.
Yeah,
because then this will be recorded. Everybody
exists,
who created it was, and it'll exactly who knows how many are really watching because it's streaming, and it's the same thing. It's the same thing with eye candy. They were like, well, you only have 1 million viewers, and I'm like, yeah, because young people are not actually watching live television.
That is
guys, we are beyond that. We need to not think about that anymore.
Your live numbers are this, and I was like, yeah, they're actually stealing it from Russia. It's bootleg before it even premieres, so you don't know what you're talking about.
Right, exactly.
I mean, we have new fans for Teen Wolf reaching out to us every day from all over the world, who've just found Teen Wolf on Hulu or Amazon, and then some people are like, do you know where I can illegally watch it because it's not available in my country? So,
right, exactly.
Yeah, it's really cool, and we're only as far as Magic Bullet in terms of
the ones that were released.
Our episodes that we've released, but we're I think somewhere in the vicinity of 5,000 downloads, right? And we're hoping to grow that as we get further into the season.
It will, for sure, I think.
So
we think so.
Yeah,
we think so.
But it is really cool because, like Calissa said, we'll talk to people through our social media who will tell us about oh, I'm in Saudi Arabia and you wouldn't believe the hoops I have to jump through to find Teen Wolf. And it's just so amazing the passion that people have.
No, it's great. It's great. Oh, that's awesome. Well, congrats.
It's wonderful.
Keep doing it. Doing something like this keeps one sane. Writing my script during the pandemic, I was like, oh my God, it kept me sane.
Yes. It's good to have something to work towards and be creative for. So it's good.
Yeah. Well, really nice. Thanks for having me, and all the best.
Thank you. Same
Thank
to you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Very excited to see more Resident Alien.
Yes.
Yay. It's gonna get crazy. It's already crazy. It's gonna get crazier.
Well, we look forward to it, and you have a wonderful evening.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.